So under that equation, I mean, you could get dealt you could get a blowout, which is what we got last night. You could be dealt, one for the ages with a crazy finish at the end, something like a crazy referee call that comes out of nowhere, that a seemingly innocuous game just becomes something that's forever seared into our sporting minds. You could get an average game. You could get a bad weather game. You could get, God forbid, a game where somebody of real import, not to minimize everybody's a human, but a star gets hurt and changes the course of the season. Last night, we were just treated to, in addition to it being a rout, we were just treated to watching Aaron Rodgers just be phenomenal. I mean, and by the way, his receiver's pretty damn good as well. But that performance, and he did have the one miss, I think that was midway through the first quarter. And I remember tweeting this, Packers were up 7-0. And it's funny because right when we were getting off the air yesterday, we made our picks. And I see, I got a weird feeling San Francisco's going to hang around and maybe cover the number, right? Teek's like, nah, I kind of like the Packers. And I was leaning Niners, and I wound up going with the Packers. So I tweet this, right? And Packers score first, boom, 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 touchdown, quick punctuation. Niners with myriad injuries, you can't blame them. Injuries, COVID protocols, all sorts of circumstances that compromise their competitive fiber right now. And then Rodgers, and I know that you remember this play, D-Cell. Rodgers is rolling out to his right, and I think it was Adams, could have been Scantling, because Scantling dropped one. This was an overthrow by Rodgers by about 10 yards long and about 10 feet high. You know the play I'm talking about?
I do. I remember it.
Okay. Number one, have you ever seen Rodgers miss a play like that? And when there's not inclement conditions?
No, that's exactly what I was about to say, too. No,
Okay.
I have not.
Okay. Just a simple, benign rollout. Guys wide open in the flats, lofted over the first defender, get it in front of the second defender. Boom, he does that with his eyes shut. And I tweeted, I said, that's the kind of play, if you lay in the 6.5 points, where maybe you're going to have to sweat a little bit longer. And what happened? The Niners wound up driving. Now they got a field goal, blah, blah, blah. The point being, that was the only mistake that Aaron Rodgers made all night. He was just absolutely fantastic. And I've got another question for anybody, but I'll throw it by D-Cell. That 4th and 1 that they completed, where Adams, quick little, again, roll out against the grain, boom, Adams not doinked off the helmet, but hands, kind of secured it with his helmet, his face mask, and got it for the first down. And that was after the timeout, if you recall. And they challenged, was that it? Yeah, they challenged the spot. Yes, they challenged the spot, which wound up being a smart, even though they talked about this during the game. Shanahan won the spot, but based on the fact that you knew the Packers were going to go for it, was it really a smart challenge? Either way, I guess it's inconsequential. They got thumped anyway. But that throw, and certainly that catch too, I was thinking about, I'm saying, what other quarterback? And it's crazy because it was, again, a relatively benign 1-yard throw. 1.5? I mean, right at the sticks. What other quarterback makes that perfect throw to that minute window? And I'm thinking, well, and you start with the great ones. Brady, not a skill set, not happening. Breeze, not a skill set, not happening. And you look at Big Ben, some of the old, not happening, not a skill set. Mahomes probably makes that throw. I could see Russell Wilson probably, and I'm saying probably to Mahomes and Wilson. That throw, that was the most spectacular play that I've ever seen that encompassed less than 5.5 feet in a long time. That throw was sick. Now, D-Cell, am I selling other players short when I say that it's quite plausible that Rodgers is the only player making that throw?
When you ran through the list of players just now, the only one that I definitively shook my head yes was Mahomes. So yeah. I don't think you're selling anyone else short. Mm-hmm. I would say Mahomes makes that throw, though. Okay. And even if you're right, and you could be, I'm certainly not saying that you're wrong. And again, I'm kind of leaning more pro with that than not. The receiver on the other end of that play, Watkins probably doesn't make that play. Cheetah, that's not really a skill set. Kelsey's got great hands. Different position. I don't know. Like that play, that duo, and that was just a further illumination of how great Davante Adams has been.
And, you know, you look at his numbers and what he's on pace for and the touchdowns and what they look like with him versus what they look like without him. You know, the fact that Scantling, I know he caught the touchdown. I mean, one-trick pony, vertical route, that's it. Had the big drop. You know, Scantling is, I don't know, he's a C-plus receiver. You know, I mean, maybe B-minus. He's really got one elite skill. He runs. And they said it last night. Boom. Point A to point B, he could do that. But the route tree, he's not going to really break any ankles. You know, you want to look at Metcalf's ascension, the speed and the size combo. There you go. You can probably begin to weave him into the conversation, even though it's only halfway into his second year in the NFL. But this is the reason why, like, if I'm a Packers fan, yeah, I'm happy we won the game. You're supposed to win the game. You're basically 7-point favorites, even though it got shaved down a half a point. But you basically started as 7-point favorites. Vegas saying you're supposed to win, even though it's on the road, and whatever that means with no fans. But if I'm a Packers fan, well, I got a win that I needed to get win number 6 and keep pace in a very congested NFC. What am I saying, D-Cell? I'm sitting here again saying, man, once again, why did you not get me something either in the draft or why did you not get me something at the trade deadline? Now, the trade deadline, we talked about this, a little different. All right, you know, Will Fuller, if you view, you know, the compensatory pick, the value would not be commensurate. And all right, there's actually business reasons behind that. Okay, all right. But, and not to beat a bloody pulp, not to beat this to a bloody pulp, but you know, I watched the Packers, and Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he may have lost, you know, 5-6-ish%, but his greatness, his propensity to do things that others simply cannot do, and quite frankly, in the history of the NFL, very few peers could ever do at their best. Watching him do this, there's no real palpable erosion. Yeah, he's been a little injury-prone last couple of years. I get it. But I don't know. I watch him, and, you know, Tiki's referenced this a lot. It's one of his go-to lines, and I get it. When we first started the show back in 2013, first show. Well, first of all, D-Cell, you weren't around for the first show. It was Pete Bellotti, right? The first show, Tiki rolls in, and he's wearing a Letterman sweater, right? True story. You know, he's always got to look good. This is not me beating on my boy. It's just saying, I mean, a little bit of a nerd, which he readily admits. He comes in with I think it was blue, like a Dallas Cowboys or a Yankee blue with, like, white piping, right? And it's not his high school Letterman sweater. It's like a Letterman sweater. It's probably like $700 cashmere. It's a Letterman sweater. It's the first show. Oh, I got my hat on. We're not even on TV. I got my hat on backwards. I got a hoodie on. Let's do radio. Dana comes in. She actually was dressed like me. He's got the Letterman sweater. He's got a button-down dress shirt with a tie. Now, if you notice, you know, you watch whether it's sports TV or politics, have you noticed that the knots have gone a little smaller the last couple? Have you noticed this? There was a point where the knots were, if you're watching this on TV, were as big as my hand is, which at this point, you know, the way I have it stretched out, is pretty big. I remember doing TV, you know, not that long ago, where my tie would be, if the camera panned, like, you know, past the middle part of my torso, you'd see the end of the tie, because to get the knot that fat, you had to really, unless you got an extra long tie, which I could never find, you had to manipulate what was there in the tie to make the fat part. And D-Cell, so he got the Letterman sweater, and you can totally see this, right? You got the Letterman sweater, the button-down shirt, you know, the power tie, and the glasses. And one of the first things he says is, you know, I love to see greatness. I watch sports to see greatness. And if there's ever a time to, you know, lean on that statement, that credo, that motto from Tiki, it was last night. Because the game was boring, you know, boring. I said yesterday, even if the 49ers win, I would view it less favorably about the Packers than I would positively, although I would laud their gumption and their tenacity and their spirit and their professionalism with such a ravaged roster. Even if the 49ers got win number 5, they're not in play in the NFC. There's just too many good teams, and they're too beat up, Last night was one of those nights you just kick back, especially if you had Devontae Adams on fantasy or Rodgers, and you're like, man, this dude, he is still slinging it, and he is still special. And the Aaron Rodgers that we saw last night and the Aaron Rodgers we've seen most of this season still is Aaron Rodgers. D-Cell, is that not a factual statement?
I don't think he's lost very much, but I would be lying if I say I took anything away from that game last night.
For the Packers?
Correct.
Yeah, no, that's not my point. No, I'm not saying that. All you take away is that you got to win you're supposed to get. And quite frankly, there's something to be said for that. You don't, elevate the Packers because of last night, clearly. All I'm saying is, boy, Aaron Rodgers could still play. That is without a doubt. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.